4, 3,
2, 1.
Put everything down and crank your speakers up.
It's time for
The Realest Podcast.
Oh yeah!
We got us a new world champion! And what is going on, guys? You're listening to the Realest Podcast, and welcome to June 27th SmackDown Live review, joined by Andrew Bass, as always. The Women's Money in the Bank Part 2 happened today, and I have a strong opinion on it. What do you think of tonight's SmackDown? Obviously, the main focus was the Women's Money in the Bank, and they made it feel like it was a big match. Obviously, I'm pretty sure the first Money in the Bank on television.
Yeah, the first on a non-pay-per-view, of course, but I don't know. I think they did a fairly good job with it. I kind of like the contrast that they made at the end there between Edge and Carmella. For those of you who haven't seen the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match, Edge won. Spoilers, it's only been like 10 years.
Shouldn't have done that. I've never seen it. Come on now.
But you know, Edge actually won by using a chair, and he attacked Chris Benoit's injured shoulder to get him off the ladder and retrieve the briefcase. And in this case, Carmella used a chair to attack the injured Becky Lynch's leg to get the advantage and get the briefcase. So for me, kind of seeing it come full circle and kind of making those little additions to the story, it kind of made the difference for me. Like it feels like, to me, it legitimizes Carmella, and it kind of gives her more heat going into her next few feuds leading up to her cashing in the Money in the Bank contract.
Yeah, and before we continue with the SmackDown Live review, last night on Monday Night Raw, I didn't say anything about it. I saw that maybe something was said, but one of the Balls in the Ball family, I want to say it was the youngest out of all three, so the younger son, made a racial slur when Dean Ambrose was coming out to the ring. WWE made a statement saying that it was not scripted and that had nothing to do with them. Again, I think that, I said it yesterday. I thought that the Balls looked really dumb in their segment yesterday, and I think this makes them look even worse. And more than likely nothing will happen. But if the youngest son is smart, he should have done that. It makes him look really bad, especially with him being a walk-on at UCLA for basketball. So
yeah, and that could really actually go back to hurt him in the long run, because a lot of colleges will go back and look at it and be like, "No, we really don't want you," and it might not happen to him because he's kind of famous now, but
I'm not going to give my opinion on it because I'm just not, because I have a strong opinion on stuff like this. So I'm not going to give my opinion.
This is a life lesson to WWE, if you really ask me, because you just don't give a microphone to a 15-year-old kid and expect him to say what you want him to say. He's kind of unfiltered. If you guidelines, he's going to say things, and it's not going to end well. I mean, that's just a normal 15-year-old kid. They say stupid stuff. Yeah. So, for what was said, it's, for what it said, it's offensive to all of us. But, for little kids like that who just don't know any better, they feel like it's just something they can say, and it's just casual, beat the kid's ass, it just, to them, it's just like they just don't think before they say things. They don't see that particular word has ramifications when it comes to the public image, especially on national television.
Yeah. But let's get into Monday Night Raw. Obviously, leading up, Daniel Bryan addresses everybody saying that James Ellsworth is banned from the building. Obviously, this leads up. It's pretty obvious what this is going to lead up to, to Ellsworth coming out and making an appearance. So it was very easy to guess what was going to happen then and there. But wrestling-wise, the Usos defeating the Hype Bros, and of course, I don't know what's next for the Hype Bros. You know, rumor has it that Mojo is going to be turning heel, and that Zack Ryder could be getting a big push. And it wouldn't surprise me. I think, you know, Mojo got a bigger push in his singles career than anything, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, WWE does like Mojo. So,
Well,
go ahead.
well, a heel turn would be really beneficial to his career because let's be honest, the character that he's running with right now is so unrelatable that, you know, if anybody wanted to do anything with his storyline, they wouldn't be able to really get behind it. Now, if you turn him into a heel and add some depth to his character, I actually see him having a singles career down the road.
Yeah. But I think you could put Mojo could play, you know, I did this, this, and this without you. You're just, you know, you're a weak point, kind of what Enzo and Cass did, what Big Cass did to Enzo. So, but I hate how just out of nowhere they're just eliminated. And, you know, I sort of agree with them last week. Well, we won. We did become number one contenders, but because he blew out his knee, you know, we still won that. We should still deserve it. I still think that should be something, and I honestly wouldn't mind seeing a, you know, possibly a triple threat match, obviously with something happening to make the Usos retain. And then, you know, SummerSlam being the New Day versus the Usos. I think it'd be better if they won it. Or the New Day winning at SummerSlam than probably Battlegrounds.
Well, you know what we're getting next, right? The epic rap battle is coming soon.
Well, the more I think about it, we could get Breezango versus the Usos again. Because Breezango, I think they're the hottest tag team on television, other than the Hardys.
I think we're not going to see that for a while again. Because it looks like they're trying to introduce a new tag team into the fray. Possibly somebody we haven't seen yet. And they're probably going to be the people that are behind this so-called Tyler Breeze scandal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't think of a tag team off the top of my head. If you want me to be honest, I really can't. The more I'm trying to think of, you know, heel tag teams right now that could be that tag team. Could be the Colognes. I could see possibly that, you know, that happening. But
if they were smart, they would have the clones do it. I mean,
it also could
get them some screen time.
It also could be American Alpha
as a heel tag team, though.
Mm-hmm. It could be, because they could be, you know, mad that, you know, these people playing dress up are, you know, doing better than me. They shouldn't be doing better than me at all. You know, kind of play that storyline. So you could give it some more of an identity. Mike Andrews says, honestly, I don't think Mojo has what it takes to be a heel. Neither do I, but that's what the rumor is.
I think he would be better off as a heel. But I don't think he's going to have a heel career. I mean, it's just in terms of, like, what he's doing now is so unrelatable and so uninteresting. I just don't see any use for it other than him being in a tag team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, all he does is, you know, jump up and down at the ramp, sprint at the ramp, and then you're just like, this dude looks like a 28-year-old, 12-year-old.
Yeah, essentially.
SmackDown Live Women's Champion defeats Naomi in a SmackDown.
Yeah, don't even get me started with this.
Well, go for it. Let's hear it.
I am so fed up with the squash matches. What was the point of having that match? Oh, we're going to have a rematch for the WWE Championship or the SmackDown Women's Championship. I'm just like, this is going to be a 3-second match. What happens? 3-second match. I'm like, I can't do it. I'm so uninterested and so unmoved by Naomi as a champion, and you know, it's not her. She can wrestle.
No,
I'm not saying she can't, but the booking has been terrible. There hasn't been a single interesting feud that Naomi has had.
Alexa Bliss.
And I mean, Alexa Bliss, yeah, but I still wasn't fully behind that either. You know, that's saying something for me because I'm like really into Alexa Bliss and what she does, but. You know, for me, it's just anything with Naomi in it has just been absolute hard to get through. And, you know, it's sort of like a Dean Ambrose situation for me at this point. I'm like, this is so bad, you need to get rid of it. And it's just like, oh, well, we're just going to have our champion compete in a match just so she appears. And you have that squash match like that, and it's just so unentertaining. It's like, what was the point of even having that match to begin with?
Hmm.
She does two moves. Think about that. She does two moves and wins the match. She does a roundhouse kick and she does that little flip attack.
It sort of reminds me of Ellsworth versus AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. Nowhere near on the same lines because Ellsworth is a joke, and even though Lana doesn't have a ton of experience, she's eventually she'll be something serious. As of right now, she'll stay where she's at. But I agree. I think it doesn't help Naomi's reign as champion, and it doesn't help Lana at all either. And I get that they're trying to get these women to have some sort of programming why the Money in the Bank match is going on, but at this point, I think it's better just not to have your champion on the show. There's no point.
Well, I mean, you don't have to have your champion on the show, and you've said it time and again. NXT has proven that. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why you needed Naomi on the show. I mean, she could have been calling commentary for the Money in the Bank ladder match if you wanted her on TV.
Yeah, I think that would be pushing it though.
I mean, yeah, it would be pushing it, but
I think
it's better than booking her in a 3-second match.
It works now. Having a women's title match or a title match in general works for Money in the Bank, but when it comes to what happened today, then it's pointless. It's not a pay-per-view, and it sort of felt like a pay-per-view, but with a lot of commercials.
Right.
So,
I don't know. It frustrates me. It really does. Like, that was probably my biggest complaint tonight was that it was just those matches are so annoying. Like there's a place and a time for a squash match. You shouldn't be having championship squash matches. It just makes absolutely no sense. And if you look at the pay-per-view, they pretty much had a squash match. Think about it. I mean, that match did not last long at all.
no.
So, I mean, just to come back and have this be a 2 or 3 minute match or whatever it was is just absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, we also, yesterday, the women's, other than Sasha Banks versus Nia Jax, it was basically a squash match. As I said yesterday, she destroyed Bayley within 5 minutes, destroyed Dana Brooke within 5 seconds, destroyed Mickie James in 2 minutes, and Emma in about a minute.
Well, the worst part about it is you look at all those people who just this week who have been associated in squash matches, and honestly make a case that it's hurting their careers having them in the squash matches. Like Lana, she's not going to be Charlotte right now. Okay, she's not going to be on Charlotte's level. Can't be taken seriously like Charlotte because she's new. She's been in a manager role for like 2-3 years now, and now they're finally letting her step out and do the wrestling part, which is what Vince has really liked about Lana since the beginning. So you have these squash matches, and especially for somebody who's returning like Emma, and to have her get beat in like 30 seconds it's really depriving to the character, and I feel like it sets back women's wrestling a little bit when they do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's back to what they used to do. That's what they're doing to the cruiserweights now.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, if I were one of those women, I'd be frustrated. I'm like, yeah, they're getting TV time, but is it really worth it when they're only getting like 2 seconds of TV time, and they're getting squashed?
Right.
I don't know. Just something to think about.
Moving on, Randy Orton basically comes out and says, I'm going to whip his ass 24/7. And one thing that I know a lot of people have been bothered by with, Randy playing the, he messed with my family and then, trying to make everybody feel bad for him, is we can't forget that Randy messed with McMahon's hardcore. But what was it? Did he punch Stephanie and Vince?
Yeah.
Punted Steph with Triple H handcuffed to the ropes and then kissed Stephanie. Punted Vince McMahon. Shane McMahon had to go. This is while Legacy was happening. So then, Shane went in. They had their battles. And they sort of mentioned that today. I sort of wish that they would play. I sort of wish that I don't get why there's going to be another rematch. I think it's dumb. You could play the, again, he messed with his father. Well, that even though that stinks, it was going to happen. As a competitor, that those two are going to get involved.
Right.
So, he obviously calls out Jinder Mahal. Mahal comes out and says, basically acknowledging in his words, the legend of Great Khali, in having the first Punjabi prison match in 10 years.
I'm cool with Punjabi prison match. I mean,
I've never seen
you heard it. You heard it. You heard it first. I turned around to you. I said, "Is there a possibility of a Punjabi prison match?" And then, like 3 minutes later, he starts talking about the Great Khali, and I'm like, "Oh God, no, 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 no!" Punjabi prison match. Jinder better win, and I feel like he is going to win. And if he does win, this is it for him and Orton. But I don't know, man. Like the Punjabi prison match, it's an interesting concept. Essentially, there's I think it's 2 or 3 rows of bamboo. And literally, in order to climb out of the Punjabi prison match, which is the whole idea of winning the match, you have to climb out of these sections of bamboo. So, you can fight on, outside of the ring, in between the 2 poles of bamboo, and then you have to climb out again. It's like a maze. You have to climb over several different rungs in order to get out. So, that concept right there is interesting in itself. But, I don't know. In terms of, the actual match, I would say the very first one with him and Taker was terrible. Or actually was good. And the second match with Batista and Great Khali was terrible. Mm-hmm. It just depends on, what goes on and how good is the story. I don't know. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I'm cool with it. I hope that when we see this, it's going to be good. I don't want to see 30 minutes of a trash match. And then have the Singh brothers come out.
I want Mahal to have a good reign. I'm talking a reign that could last to WrestleMania. I want him to have that long of a reign. And I think it would make it legitimate if he beats Orton. Go to SummerSlam even though Cena's going to play the free agent card. Have a WWE title match against Cena. I think that would really help. To make it a legitimate run.
Mm. But that's if the powers that be allow him to beat Super Cena.
I personally don't think that Cena would win his 17th title at SummerSlam. I think he'd win it at WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's just it just depends on what the powers that be have in store for him. Because I don't know. It's Super Cena, and you can't really put anything past John Cena.
That's also assuming that if they want Cena to have 17 and to surpass Ric Flair.
I think at this point it's expected.
I think part of me thinks that they should, and then there's a part of me that thinks they shouldn't. Cena's done a lot for WWE, and I'm not saying that Ric Flair didn't do a lot for wrestling, but he really has done a lot, and Cena's worked his ass off. Again, I'm not saying Ric Flair didn't, but part of me does think that Cena deserves to have that 17.
Mm. Yeah, we'll see. We really will see, but it all just depends on what their plans are. I honestly, when Jinder Mahal won the number 1 contender match, I had no idea that this is where they were going to take it, and honestly, I'm cool with it. He's
getting natural.
I'll be the first one to say he's got natural heat for one, but 2, he's made me a Jinder Mahal fan. In terms of his heat, I mean, I think it's one of the first things I said when I joined the podcast with you guys. I love heels. The whole reason why I watch wrestling is because of the heat the heels have. Guys like Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, when they're heels, guys that have natural heat that make things interesting. And Jinder Mahal has all that going on. And to make it even worse, you have the Singh brothers backing him up, and he kind of got that legacy factor going. The Punjabi legacy. Day Maharaja. And they really have the potential to, like I said, give him a legitimate title run. Make him have a long title reign like JBL did with his cabinet. You know, every time JBL would get the lose, you have the cabinet come out and save him. You know, and they have that potential, and they could set it up, but they have to pull the trigger and be willing to kind of give Mahal a chance, because as well as I am, if Mahal loses that title, it's probably the closest he's ever coming to getting that title back. I mean, let's be real.
I think if he has a legitimate run, he should stay around that picture. Which, as of right now, it's been a good legitimate run. As of now.
Yeah.
Even though he's only faced one opponent, I still think I don't think it's been a terrible run. But last thing that happens on SmackDown is obviously the women's Money in the Bank match once again, and I didn't really like it, especially with the result. I think I don't understand it. I think it looks better, even though it wasn't a great match. But I think heat-wise, I think it looks better on Carmella if they just had it the first, in the first way they did it. Even though it's, people are, and I get why they did it. It's like, there's no way Carmella can do it again with Ellsworth being banned. And then obviously Becky Lynch getting Ellsworth off the ladder. It's like, there's no way Carmella can win now. I get that angle, but again, people would still be talking about how, oh, it's ridiculous that James Ellsworth was the one that won it for. A man decides it.
Right.
So I just think it was pointless. Now the question is was this Money in the Bank better than the Money in the Bank pay-per-view? I don't know, because and the reason I say I don't know is because the commercial breaks really ruined it for me. It gets really annoying when you get invested into a match and you hear, all right, we'll be right back after these messages, and then a Snickers commercial will come on.
Yeah. And that's the problem with having on live TV like that. Like, you try to kind of recapture that same magic, and it's not going to happen. But honestly, I wasn't entertained by the match itself. I was entertained by the finish. The finish was super important to me, and I think that they did right by it, to have her go up and get it herself, and to have her do it the way she did it. And like I said, for me, as a longtime fan, like, I go back and I make those little connections between the first Mr. Money in the Bank and first Mrs. Money in the Bank. And, it just seems to fit. And like I said, like, Carmella now adds even further heat, because now she did it herself, and she becomes the first woman to ever win the Money in the Bank ladder match twice. So, I mean, that's all just natural heat, and I think that this could be the beginning of a legitimate title run for Carmella. I think that you take a shot with Carmella and see what happens. I would be perfectly fine with Carmella win the championship at any given time.
Yeah. Again, I'm not saying that the finish was bad. I think the finish was a smart finish for them to do that. I don't agree with it. I think they should have kept it how it was with the amount of heat that she would have gotten. Again, that's just my opinion. So, I mean, nothing really more to say. I don't think they took as many high spots. I think Becky Lynch took probably one of the biggest high spots of the night. Her and Charlotte. Charlotte leaned a ladder against the ladder setup, and the ladder almost actually fell off as she was going up. And then, obviously, Becky Lynch going up on the ladder while Tamina and God bless, I can't think of her name. Natalia. So, when Tamina and Natalia were holding up the ladder, that was another risky spot. Obviously, it didn't hurt, but of course, with them saying that James Ellsworth is banned from the building, that is basically them saying James Ellsworth will be in the building at this point in time.
Yeah.
So, they obviously have James Ellsworth. They recreate the situation from last week. Then putting Becky Lynch up there to get everybody cheering, getting happy. And then Carmella does the angle, hits her with a chair, wins the match. Everybody's upset.
Essentially, yeah.
Now since both Money in the Banks are now official, I'm going to ask the question. Obviously, we can't. This is probably one of the hardest things to predict. When does Baron Corbin and Carmella cash in their Money in the Bank. So obviously they have 1 year to cash it in. So until the next Money in the Bank pay-per-view to cash in the Money in the Bank contract.
I was the one who said that. I thought the women were gonna cash in the contract right away. I thought that they were gonna do that and kind of make waves. Um, you see, like with the Money in the Bank, the Mr. Money in the Bank, there's so many different indications of when something could happen. Like normally you look for like the matches like Elimination Chamber, Hell in the Cells, matches that normally take like a shit ton out of people, and you're like, all right, this is the appropriate time. During this match, they're going to use the briefcase. Like you could kind of almost guess, but with the women's wrestling, it's going to be a little bit less predictable because we're never going to know for sure when she's going to cash because they just don't have enough of those matches to where it's like, all right, yeah, that's definitely going to be the moment where Carmella cashes. So like my original thought was the women were going to cash in right away and sort of capitalize on the unpredictability and kind of set the tone for the women. Like, oh yeah, wow, now this is a thing. This can happen at any given time. But Carmella didn't cash in.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they had the storyline worked up that they were going to redo this and everything like that. I would have actually been more excited with the idea of Carmella cashing in that night and taking the championship from Naomi when she had the chance. So I mean, you know, I still think the women are going to cash in first, somewhere within the next like 2 to 3 months. But we'll see. I mean, I see Baron Corbin holding on to that briefcase a lot longer, especially since he's going to be getting into something with Shinsuke Nakamura.
Logically, I think that we'll see Carmella cash it in at SummerSlam. For one, she'll be in basically in her home state, and she'll also. I think you have Naomi go through a really tough match. Probably, I would say against Charlotte, and what you basically do is you have it be a really good match. I would say that you work her ankle or her leg, really tear into her leg. I'm talking about Naomi here. Naomi barely winning the match, and then obviously you kind of play like Alberto Del Rio did, and then her barely being able to walk. Carmella's music hits, and then Carmella obviously comes in, cashes in, becomes the new women's championship. Now, when it comes to Baron Corbin, as I said, I'm wanting Jinder Mahal's championship to become a long reign. I don't see them having Jinder Mahal cash in with a heel as your champion. So I think it'll be a while, and I don't know who it will be against. Could be John Cena.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way that Corbin would cash in on Jinder. It would make absolutely no sense.
I honestly could see it happening after WrestleMania.
Yeah, I could see that too. It just depends on who's champion and when they're champion. Especially if they plan on, if it is Cena that's going to take it away.
I just thought about it. Could you imagine Cena winning his 17th title and getting it cashed in on him?
Yeah, I could totally see that. And like I said, who better than do it than Baron Corbin, especially if Cena's not going to be around for too long because he always has some other commitment to go around. He would be the perfect thing. He finally wins that championship, breaks the record, and then Corbin comes in, cashes, and he gets to be the one who ends the historic title reign of John Cena.
The 5 seconds of the historic title reign.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like that idea the more I think about it, but there's still that part of me that thinks, no, they shouldn't do that because Cena needs to have a legitimate title run. It'll be a joke when you say John Cena 17-time champion, but he won his 17th championship and lost it in 5 seconds.
Well, I mean, look at a 16th championship match.
You're absolutely right.
They did the same thing to him last year.
But still, it's just like I think the 17th one is the one that you don't want to be a joke. You don't want that. You just don't want that. So
Yeah, but it just depends on seeing the schedule, honestly.
But you know, you really didn't answer the question. When do you see Carmella and Baron Corbin cashing in?
Like I said, Carmella definitely 2 to 3 months.
So which
Um,
pay-per-view? Because we have Battlegrounds coming up in July, and then SummerSlam in August, and then whatever they have in September.
I'm going for a SummerSlam in August. Corbin, I would say right around WrestleMania. Probably the Rumble or Mania itself.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say that I'll give SmackDown a 7. I think Raw and SmackDown were even. Even. I think Raw might. I'm not gonna say Raw came up with it because I thought the second hour for Raw was really bad. But other than that, I think that giving it both shows a 7 will even it out. I think what really ruined SmackDown was that women's championship match. So
Yeah,
so yeah, I think that's gonna be like my final thought on Raw. Or SmackDown? What do you think?
I think a 7 is fair. And like I talked about it in great length at the beginning of the show. I just the women's championship match was what killed it for me. You can't have your champion in a squash match like that. And for a championship match, it sets back women's wrestling. When you do that, it brings them back to what they used to do. So I feel like it hurt them more than it helped them.
Right.
I mean, it's not worth it just putting your champion on there just to have a squash match. I mean, especially since Naomi is not Brock Lesnar or Goldberg or Braun Strowman. I mean, I can expect that out of Nia Jax at this point, and I would
She's gonna
sort
beat
of
the
like
crap with
accept
that.
it. Well, yeah, I mean, essentially, like even Asuka. I mean, look at Asuka. Asuka doesn't even have the squash matches half the time. You
No,
know,
I heard
I mean,
her. I heard her last woman standing match with Nikki Cross is outstanding, which is gonna air tomorrow.
I'm sure. I'm absolutely, I'm
Wait,
absolutely sure about that.
Didn't Morrow cast that or commentate that? Pretty sure
I
he
think
did.
so.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's gonna be good. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us again. It was a decent show tonight. We'll be live once again with this Monday Night Raw review on Monday. For Andrew, I'm Blake Carter. Until then, guys, peace out.